Who the hell is he, Sarah? The words ripped out of me, raw and guttural, echoing in the sudden silence of the dance studio. The music had just died, the last notes of some upbeat pop song fading into nothingness, but the silence that followed was deafening. It was the kind of quiet that screams louder than any shout, thick with unspoken accusations and the sickening lurch of betrayal. Sarah, my wife, stood frozen mid-stretch, one leg extended gracefully along the bar, her usually vibrant green eyes wide with a deer-in-headlights panic. Sweat glistened on her forehead, catching the harsh fluorescent lights of the studio, but it didn't mask the flush creeping up her neck. "Mark, what are you talking about?" Her voice was a shaky whisper, a pathetic attempt at innocence that crumbled before it even left her lips. I gestured wildly towards the mirror, that damn wall of mirrors that had become my personal hell in the last 5 minutes. "Don't play games with me, Sarah. I saw you. In the mirror. Him. You." Hands all over each other like it was some goddamn movie scene. Her gaze flickered to the mirror, then back to me, a mix of fear and something else. Defiance? It was hard to read. Her face a mask of conflicting emotions. Around us, the other dancers, mostly women, were still, their conversations abruptly cut short, eyes darting between us, hungry for the drama that was unfolding. I didn't give a damn about them. All I cared about was the woman in front of me, the woman I had sworn to spend my life with, the woman who was now looking at me like I was some kind of lunatic. "Mark, you're misunderstanding," she tried again, her voice gaining a sliver of strength, but it was still weak, unconvincing. "It's just choreography. We were working on a new routine." "Choreography? Routine?" My laugh was bitter, humorless. "Routine? Since when does choreography involve tongue down the throat and hands cupping ass?" The studio air thickened, heavy with the weight of my words. A couple of gasps rippled through the onlookers. Sarah's face went white, then red again, blotchy with shame and anger. "That's not what happened," she hissed, finally finding her voice. "You're twisting things. You always do. Twisting things." I stepped closer, my voice low and dangerous. "Sarah, I saw it, clear as day. And it wasn't just me. Ask them." I swept my hand towards the other dancers, their faces a mixture of embarrassment and morbid curiosity. "Ask them if they saw your choreography too." Silence. A long, drawn-out silence that confirmed everything. I didn't need their words, their averted eyes, their shuffling feet, their tight-lipped expressions. It was all the answer I needed. "Fine," Sarah exploded, her composure finally cracking. "Fine, you want to know?" "Yes." We kissed. "Okay. Happy now?" "But it's not what you think." "Oh, really?" "Enlighten me, Sarah. Because from where I'm standing, it looks exactly like my wife cheating on me with her goddamn student." Her eyes flashed, tears welling up but not falling. He's going through a tough time. His girlfriend just dumped him. He was upset, and I was just comforting him. It was a moment of weakness, Mark. That's all. A moment of weakness? Comforting him? I stared at her, disbelief warring with a burning rage. This was it? This was her explanation? The pathetic, cliché excuse of every cheating spouse in history? A moment of weakness? I repeated, the words tasting like ash in my mouth. "In my dance studio? With your student? While I'm at work busting my ass to pay for this place? Don't you dare make this about money, Mark." She spat back, her voice rising again. "This isn't about the studio or your precious architecture firm. This is about connection. Something you clearly don't understand anymore. Connection? Was she serious? After 10 years of marriage, of building a life together, she was talking about connection with some kid she taught to ply? Connection. I laughed again, the sound hollow and broken. You want connection? How about the connection between a husband and wife? Remember that one, Sarah? The one where you promised, till death do us part? Her face crumpled then, the defiance finally giving way to tears. "Oh, Mark," she sobbed, her voice thick with emotion. "Please, just let me explain." Explain? What was there to explain? I had seen it. Everyone had seen it. The trust, the foundation of everything we had built, was shattered, lying in pieces on the polished dance floor. "Explain what, Sarah?" I asked, my voice dangerously quiet now, the rage hardening into a cold, icy anger. "Explain how you could do this to me? Explain how you could look me in the eye every night and pretend everything was fine? Explain how you could betray everything we have." She just stood there, tears streaming down her face, her body trembling. The other dancers shifted uncomfortably, their voyeurism replaced by a palpable sense of unease. This wasn't entertainment anymore. This was a marriage imploding in real time. I don't know," she whispered, the words barely audible. I messed up. Okay? I messed up big time." Messed up? That was an understatement of epic proportions. Messed up was spilling coffee on your shirt. Messed up was forgetting to pay a bill. This was a goddamn earthquake, tearing apart the landscape of our lives. "Messed up," I echoed, the word laced with sarcasm. "Yeah, Sarah, you could say that. You just nuked our entire life. But yeah, messed up works too." I turned and walked away, the silence in the studio pressing in on me, suffocating. I needed air, needed space, needed to get the hell out of there before I said or did something I'd regret even more. I could feel their eyes on my back, Sarah's sobs echoing behind me, but I didn't stop. Couldn't. Not yet. The New York air was cold, biting at my skin as I stepped out onto the bustling street, but it was a welcome change from the toxic atmosphere I just left behind. The city noise, usually a comforting hum, now felt like a chaotic roar, mirroring the turmoil in my head. I walked, not knowing where I was going, just needing to move, to escape the suffocating weight of what I just witnessed. I was Mark Olson, 42, architect. Successful, stable, or so I thought. I designed buildings, crafted spaces for people to live and work, places meant to be solid, enduring. Ironically, my own life, the structure I had so carefully built with Sarah over the last decade, had just crumbled like a poorly constructed foundation. Sarah and I met at a gallery opening in Chelsea. I was instantly drawn to her. She was a whirlwind of energy, a vibrant splash of color in the monochrome world of my meticulously planned life. Her hair, the color of rich mahogany, framed a face that was both delicate and strong, with high cheekbones and a smile that could melt glaciers. And those eyes, those damn green eyes, they were always alive, sparkling with intelligence and a mischievous glint that promised adventure. She had a dancer's body, lean and toned, moving with a natural grace that was mesmerizing to watch. Even when she was just reaching for a coffee cup, I was captivated. And she, surprisingly, seemed just as intrigued by me, the quiet, reserved architect who was clearly out of his element in the art world. We talked for hours that night, about art, about life, about everything and nothing. She was a dance teacher, running her own studio in the West Village, a dream she had nurtured since she was a little girl. I admired her passion, her drive, the way she poured her heart and soul into her art. We fell hard and fast. It was a whirlwind romance, fueled by late-night talks, shared dreams, and a chemistry that was undeniable. We were married within a year, a small, intimate ceremony in Central Park, surrounded by close friends and family. Those early years were bliss. We were a team, supporting each other's ambitions, navigating the ups and downs of life with laughter and unwavering love. Sarah's dance studio, Rhythm Soul, became her sanctuary, her passion project. I helped her with the renovations, designing the space, making it a reflection of her vibrant personality, bright, airy, with those wall-to-wall mirrors that now haunted my waking thoughts. It was her world, and I was proud of her, proud of what she had built. I'd even take her to dinner in the West Village sometimes, enjoying the lively atmosphere around her studio, feeling like I was a part of her world, even if I was just an observer in the wings. My own world was different, more structured, more predictable. Architecture was my calling, my way of leaving a mark on the world. I thrived on the precision, the planning, the tangible results of my work. My firm, Olson Davies, was well respected, known for its modern, minimalist designs. I was a partner, on track for bigger things, my career trajectory steadily rising. We were different, Sarah and I, but that was part of the attraction. We balanced each other, complemented each other. I was the anchor, she was the kite, soaring high but always tethered to me, or so I thought. In the last year or so, things had shifted, subtly at first, then more noticeably. Sarah had become more distant, more preoccupied. She spent even more time at the studio, often coming home late, exhausted, but different, less engaged, less present. Our conversations became superficial, our intimacy dwindling. I chalked it up to stress, to the pressures of running her own business, to the general wear and tear of a long-term relationship. I was wrong, so damn wrong. I found myself wandering through the West Village, the familiar streets now feeling alien, tainted by the image of Sarah and that kid. He was young, maybe early 20s, with that effortless confidence that only youth can bestow. I'd seen him around the studio before, one of Sarah's star students, always hanging around, always eager to please. He was attractive in a boyish, clean-cut way. Sandy blonde hair, blue eyes, a lean, athletic build honed by hours in the dance studio. Definitely Sarah's type. Or at least the type she seemed to be gravitating towards now. I stopped in front of a bar, the Blue Note, the neon sign casting a hazy glow on the sidewalk. Jazz music drifted out into the night, a melancholic saxophone solo that seemed to echo my own mood. I needed a drink, needed to numb the raw pain that was tearing through me. I walked in, the dim lighting and smoky atmosphere, a welcome escape from the harsh reality of the street. The bar was crowded, a mix of locals and tourists, the air thick with conversation and the clinking of glasses. I found a stool at the bar, ordered a whiskey, neat, and just sat there, letting the music wash over me, trying to make sense of what had just happened. My phone buzzed in my pocket. It was Sarah. I ignored it, let her stew in her guilt for a while, let her face the consequences of her actions. I wasn't ready to talk, not yet, maybe not ever. I nursed my whiskey, watching the bartenders expertly mix drinks, the rhythm of their movements a strange counterpoint to the chaos in my head. A woman sat down on the stool next to me, her presence a sudden intrusion into my solitude. "Rough day?" she asked, her voice smooth and husky, with a hint of a southern drawl. I glanced at her. She was striking in a way that was both sophisticated and earthy. Long, dark hair cascaded over her shoulders, framing a face with sharp angles and full lips painted a deep crimson. She had eyes that were the color of warm honey, intelligent and assessing, and a body that was, well, let's just say she knew how to wear a dress. A simple black dress that clung to her curves in all the right places, hinting at a figure that was both athletic and sensual. "You could say that," I replied, my voice flat. "Whiskey neat at 5 in the afternoon. Definitely rough," she chuckled, a low, throaty sound. "I'm Isabella, by the way." She extended a hand, her fingers long and elegant, nails painted the same deep red as her lips. "Mark," I said, shaking her hand. Her grip was firm, confident. "Mark," she repeated, her honey eyes studying me. "Something tells me your day is about to get a whole lot rougher." I took another swig of whiskey, the burn a welcome distraction. "You have no idea." And with that, I started to tell her. Everything. From the moment I walked into the dance studio to the gut-wrenching sight in the mirror, to Sarah's pathetic excuses, to the raw, gaping hole that had just been ripped into my life. Isabella listened, her gaze unwavering, her expression sympathetic but not pitying. She didn't interrupt, didn't offer platitudes, just listened. And sometimes that's all you need. By the time I finished, the bar had filled up even more, the noise level rising, but in our little corner, it felt strangely intimate, like we were the only two people in the room. Isabella signaled the bartender for another round, this time ordering a glass of red wine for herself. That's brutal, Mark," she said finally, her voice soft but firm. "I'm really sorry." "Yeah," I sighed, running a hand through my hair. "Me too. What are you going to do?" she asked, her eyes searching mine. I shrugged. the weight of the unknown settling heavily on my shoulders. I don't know. Walk away? Burn it all down? Right now, I honestly have no goddamn clue. Isabella took a sip of her wine, her gaze thoughtful. You deserve better than that, Mark. You deserve someone who respects you, who honors your vows, who doesn't sneak around behind your back. Her words, simple and direct, resonated with a painful truth. I did deserve better. We all do. But sometimes, life throws you a curveball, a sucker punch that leaves you reeling, questioning everything you thought you knew. Easy to say, I muttered, swirling the whiskey in my glass. Harder to do. Maybe, she conceded. But not impossible. You have choices, Mark. You don't have to stay in a situation that's clearly toxic, that's eating you up inside. Choices. That was the thing, wasn't it? I did have choices. I could try to salvage the wreckage of my marriage, try to forgive Sarah, try to rebuild something from the ashes. Or I could walk away, cut my losses, and start over. The thought of either option was equally daunting, equally terrifying. What would you do? I asked her, the question blurting out before I could stop myself. Isabella smiled, a slow, knowing smile that crinkled the corners of her eyes. Honey, I've been through my share of heartache, and I've learned one thing. Life's too short to waste on people who don't appreciate you. You deserve happiness, Mark. Don't settle for anything less. Her words hung in the air, a lifeline in the swirling darkness of my despair. Happiness. Was that even possible anymore? Could I find happiness again? After this? After Sarah? Thanks, Isabella, I said, meeting her gaze, a flicker of hope igniting within me. I needed to hear that. Anytime, Mark, she replied, her smile widening. Now, how about we get you another whiskey, and we talk about something lighter? And for the first time since I'd walked into that dance studio, I felt a tiny sliver of relief, a fragile sense that maybe, just maybe, I could get through this. Maybe I could survive this earthquake and even eventually rebuild. But the road ahead was long, uncertain, and filled with pain. And I knew, deep down, that nothing would ever be quite the same again. The next few days were a blur of anger, confusion, and gut-wrenching sadness. I moved out of our apartment, finding a temporary place in a hotel downtown. The silence in the hotel room was deafening, a stark contrast to the vibrant life I had shared with Sarah. Everywhere I looked, I saw reminders of her photos on my phone, books on my nightstand, even the scent of her perfume lingering on my clothes. It was a constant, agonizing ache. Sarah called, texted, emailed, begging to talk, to explain. I ignored most of it, unable to face her, unable to process the betrayal, the lies. Finally, after 3 days of silence, I agreed to meet her. Neutral ground, I insisted. A coffee shop in Midtown, far from our apartment, far from the studio, far from our life. She was waiting for me when I arrived, sitting at a corner table, looking pale and drawn. Her eyes were red-rimmed, her usual vibrant energy dimmed, almost extinguished. She looked smaller, somehow less vibrant, like a wilting flower. And despite everything, despite the anger and the pain, a pang of something akin to pity, or maybe just residual affection, tugged at my heart. Mark, she said softly as I sat down, her voice barely a whisper. Thank you for meeting me. Don't thank me, I said, my voice cold, devoid of emotion. I'm here because I need answers. Not excuses, not apologies, just answers. She nodded, her gaze fixed on her hands, clasped tightly in her lap. I know, and I want to give them to you. I owe you that much. The explanation, when it came, was even more convoluted, more pathetic than I had imagined. It wasn't just a moment of weakness, as she had initially claimed. It had been going on for weeks, maybe months. It started with emotional support, then comforting hugs, then stolen kisses, and finally, full-blown affair. With Liam, her student, the boy with the sandy blonde hair and the puppy dog eyes. He made me feel seen, Mark, she confessed, her voice trembling. Seen in a way that I haven't felt in a long time. You've been so distant lately, so focused on work. I felt like you weren't even noticing me anymore. Distant? Focused on work? Was that it? Was that her justification for betraying our marriage? For shattering my trust? So, because I've been distant, you decided to jump into bed with your student? I asked, my voice dripping with sarcasm. That's your brilliant logic? It wasn't just about that mark, she cried, her voice rising. It was about feeling alive again, feeling desired. You used to look at me like I was the most amazing woman in the world. Lately, you just look at me like I'm furniture. Furniture? Was that how she saw herself? As furniture in my life? Had I really been that blind, that oblivious to her needs, her feelings? The guilt, a cold, insidious tendril, started to snake its way into my anger. Sarah, I work my ass off to provide for us, I said, my voice strained. To give you the life you want, the studio you dreamed of. Is that being furniture? Is that not noticing you? It's not about the money, Mark, she insisted, tears streaming down her face again. It's about emotional intimacy. It's about feeling connected. It's about love. Love? She dared to use that word? After what she had done. Love. I scoffed, shaking my head in disbelief. You think cheating on your husband is love, Sarah? You think betraying everything we stand for is love? No, she sobbed. No, of course not. I know I messed up. I know I hurt you. I'm so sorry, Mark. So sorry. The apologies, the tears, the confessions. It was all a tangled mess of words and emotions, but underneath it all, I sensed a sliver of truth, a kernel of genuine regret. Maybe she wasn't just making excuses. Maybe she was genuinely lost, genuinely hurting, genuinely confused. Do you love him? I asked, the question hanging heavy in the air between us. She hesitated, her eyes darting away. A flicker of something. Something that wasn't just guilt or shame. It was longing, affection. Damn it, was it love? I don't know, she whispered again, her voice barely audible. It's complicated. Complicated. Of course it was complicated. Nothing was ever simple, was it? Especially when it came to love, to marriage, to the messy, tangled web of human emotions. Complicated. I repeated, the word echoing her own pathetic excuse. Well, let me simplify it for you, Sarah. You cheated on me. You betrayed me. You broke our vows. There's nothing complicated about that. It's called betrayal. It's called infidelity. It's called the end. Her face crumpled, her tears flowing freely now. No, Mark, please, don't say that. Don't end us. I know I messed up, but we can fix this. We can work through this. Please, just give me another chance. Another chance? Could I forgive her? Could I trust her again? Could I ever look at her without seeing the image in the mirror, the image of her and Liam tangled together in my dance studio, in my mind? The thought of trying to rebuild, to piece together the shattered fragments of our marriage, was exhausting, overwhelming. But the thought of walking away, of losing everything we had built, of facing a future without her, was equally terrifying. I don't know, Sarah, I said finally, my voice weary, defeated. I don't know. I stood up, the coffee growing cold in my cup, the weight of uncertainty pressing down on me. I need time, Sarah. Time to think. Time to figure out what I want, what I need. She nodded, her eyes pleading, desperate. Okay, Mark. Okay, I understand. Just, please don't give up on us completely. Please. I didn't answer, just turned and walked away, leaving her sitting there, alone, amidst the clatter of the coffee shop, the echoes of our broken promises hanging in the air. The New York streets were still bustling, the city still alive, oblivious to the personal earthquake that had just ripped through my world. And I was left standing amidst the rubble, wondering if there was anything left to salvage, or if it was time to simply walk away and start building something new, something different, from the ground up. Days turned into weeks, weeks into a slow, agonizing month. I stayed in the hotel, lost in a fog of grief and confusion. I went to work, went through the motions, designed buildings, attended meetings, but my heart wasn't in it. Everything felt hollow, meaningless. I saw Isabella a few more times, at the Blue Note, at a small Italian restaurant in Little Italy. She was a good listener, a steady presence in my storm-tossed life. She didn't offer advice, didn't push me in any direction, just listened, offered a sympathetic ear, and occasionally, a wry observation that made me chuckle despite myself. I learned she was a musician, a jazz singer, performing at various clubs around the city. Her voice, like her eyes, was warm and honeyed, with a soulful depth that resonated with my own melancholy. One evening, after a particularly grueling day at work, I found myself back at the Blue Note, seeking solace in the familiar dim lighting and the comforting strains of jazz. Isabella was on stage, bathed in a soft spotlight, her voice weaving a spellbinding tale of love and loss, of heartache and resilience. She sang with her eyes closed, her body swaying to the rhythm, lost in the music, lost in the emotion. She was captivating, mesmerizing. After her set, she joined me at the bar, her face flushed, her eyes sparkling with the afterglow of performance. "You were amazing," I told her, genuinely impressed. "Your voice, it's incredible." She smiled, a genuine, radiant smile that lit up her face. "Thanks, Mark. Music's my therapy. Gets me through the rough patches." "I get it," I said, taking a sip of my whiskey. "Lately, I feel like I need therapy just to get through the morning." She chuckled, her eyes softening. "So, how are you holding up? Still in limbo?" I sighed, running a hand through my hair. "Yeah, pretty much. Sarah keeps calling, texting, begging to talk. I don't know what to say to her." "Have you thought about what you want?" Isabella asked, her gaze direct, probing. "Yeah," I said slowly, the answer starting to crystallize in my mind. "Yeah, I think I have. I want out." The words, once spoken, felt strangely liberating, like a weight lifting off my chest. I wanted out. Out of the pain, out of the confusion, out of the wreckage of my marriage. I wanted to start over, to rebuild, to find my own happiness, even if it meant doing it alone. "Then do it," Isabella said, her voice firm, encouraging. "Don't drag it out, Mark. Rip off the Band-Aid. It'll hurt like hell, but it'll be cleaner, faster, and you'll be free to move on." Free. The word resonated with a powerful allure. Free from the lies, free from the betrayal, free from the constant ache in my heart. Free to find my own path, my own future. "You're right," I said, meeting her gaze, a newfound resolve hardening my voice. "I need to do it. For myself. For my own sanity." "Good," she smiled, her eyes warm and supportive. "Then go do it. And then, come back here. We'll celebrate your liberation." I laughed, a genuine laugh this time, the first in weeks. "Liberation?" I repeated, the word tasting sweet, like a promise of something better to come. "I like that." The next day I called Sarah. I told her I wanted a divorce. The conversation was brief, painful, but necessary. She cried, pleaded, begged for another chance, but my mind was made up. I was done. Done with the lies, done with the betrayal, done with the pain. The divorce proceedings were messy, protracted, but eventually finalized. We divided our assets, sold the apartment, untangled our lives. It was a painful process, a slow, agonizing bleed, but with each step, I felt a little lighter, a little freer. I moved into a smaller apartment in Tribeca, overlooking the river. It was minimalist, modern, a blank canvas for a new beginning. I threw myself into work, designing new projects, pushing myself creatively, finding solace in the familiar rhythm of my profession. I kept seeing Isabella at the Blue Note, at other clubs around the city, sometimes just for drinks, sometimes for dinner, sometimes just to listen to her sing. We talked, laughed, shared stories, found a comfortable rhythm in each other's company. She was smart, funny, independent, and fiercely talented. And she understood heartache, understood the complexities of life, the fragility of love. One night, after her set at the Blue Note, we were sitting at the bar, sipping wine, the conversation flowing easily between us. "You seem lighter, Mark," she observed, her honey eyes studying me. "Happier." I smiled, a genuine, heartfelt smile. "I am," I admitted. "It's still raw, you know? The divorce, everything. But, yeah, I feel lighter, freer." "Good," she said, her smile widening. "You deserve to be happy, Mark. Remember that." "I'm trying," I said, meeting her gaze, a new emotion stirring within me. Something warmer, something deeper than just friendship. "And you're helping." She leaned in closer, her voice dropping to a husky whisper. Maybe we can help each other, Mark." Her eyes held mine, a silent invitation, a promise of something new, something different. And for the first time in a long time, I felt a flicker of hope, a spark of excitement, a sense that maybe, just maybe, this wasn't the end. Maybe it was just a new beginning. I reached out, took her hand in mine, her fingers intertwining with mine, warm and strong. The music swirled around us. The city lights twinkled outside the window, and in that moment, in that dimly lit jazz bar, amidst the wreckage of my past, I felt a fragile sense of possibility. The future was still uncertain, still unwritten, but for the first time in months, I wasn't afraid of it. I was curious, and maybe, just maybe, that was enough to start again. The music swelled, Isabella's voice filled the room, and I held her hand, letting the rhythm carry me forward, into the unknown, into the possibility of a new song, a new dance, a new life. The mirror in the dance studio was shattered, but the reflection in Isabella's honey eyes offered a different kind of truth, a different kind of hope. And maybe, just maybe, that was all I needed to find my way again.